Professor Umaru Dambata, who is Executive Vice Chair of the NCC, is still with us here on Sunrise Daily. I did say that when we come back from that break, we were going to be discussing the state of the telecom companies themselves.
Yeah.
So we've been hearing that quite a number, one of the telecoms companies, one of the big major players, has been on shaky leg. I don't want to mention names for legal purposes, but can you tell us, if really that is the situation?
Well, there's one, like you rightly said, particular operator with subscribers, on their network of close to 23 million. And I'm glad that the NCC, invoking one of the items of our 8-point agenda, that is the item that has to do with strategic collaboration and partnership, has stepped in good time, to stave off, if you like, an attempt by some banks, to take over, the company. I mean, the operator, that is the telecommunications company. We thought doing that would have impacted negatively on the economy, on the industry, and would have resulted in destabilizing, the industry. So as I'm talking to you, negotiations are going on with the banks, together with the financial, regulator, as well as the telco in question, like you rightly said. We do not have a statement, to make officially. We have made statements to the effect that the NCC has intervened in order to stave off this takeover.
But how is the financial situation of that telecom company affecting its operations?
They are still very much operational. They are rendering, telecommunication services to customers, and they are doing very well, I must say. I'm not trying to really provide, any publicity to this particular operator. So the crucial thing that led to our intervention is to ensure that this operator survives, because we need this operator to survive. It is important for the sector, like I said. It is important for the economy, and there is need for some kind of negotiations which are going on in order to agree on some terms, flexible terms that the operator can be able to meet.
It raises questions because, generally there is the belief that the telecom sector in the country is one of the lucrative areas where businesses can invest and even make a quick turnaround. There is always the miracle story of one of them who was said to have made, I think, a massive turnover within 6 months and was even profitable within a spate of 6 months of investing in the country. But then, there are questions now as to whether or not telecom companies can be, given the amount of promos that they're given, the amount of bonuses, the amount of, publicity they're getting, having so many customers on their line, and are still, having issues with banks.
Well, this issue of this particular operator started when they, applied and got a loan in order to expand their operations. That was when the exchange rate, that is the dollar to the naira exchange rate, was favorable. All of a sudden, we had this problem now in the exchange rate, market, and the operator is having to pay the dollar component of the loan, at really a very, very higher, value. Okay, and this is a huge challenge. At the time also that this happened, the telcos do not have access to, to foreign exchange, and we have since addressed this. The financial regulator is, disposed to entertain requests from telecommunication companies for forex. Okay, so our intervention has substantially addressed the issue of forex for telecommunication companies, but the capacity of this particular operator to still meet these financial obligations to a conglomerate of banks, from which they collected a loan, lingers on. And we are concerned that unless we intervene to ensure an amicable resolution of the problem, that if it goes unwieldy, then this is going to not only affect the portions of the telecommunications sector, it's going to send, the wrong signal to potential investors, into that sector.
Professor Dambata, how would you respond to critics who believe that the NCC has been too kind to telecom operators?
We have not. All the facts are there. If I may start with, our engagement with the telcos recently, where we read the right to act on quality of service. We told them unambiguously that quality of service must improve, and we have given them a deadline for that.
I'll give you an instance. You said you noticed that, telecom, quality of service began to drop late last year, between October, November and December, and even the early part of this year.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until February this year when you held a meeting with the telecom operators. And even then, they have been given a deadline, because people would say that they haven't seen an improvement since the meeting of the NCC with telecom operators.
We have been monitoring the quality of service, on a monthly basis. So we know what is going on.
Is NCC seeing any improvement?
Well, the analysis, is being done, and we will soon come out with a statement as to whether the quality of service has improved from what it was, during the last quarter of, last year or not. And then we intend to take the next, action, to ensure that it improves. Now, going back to the health of the sector, which I forget I did not address, when you raised it up. Going by the figures released recently, by the National Bureau of Statistics, the sector has actually bounced back and contributed an additional 1%, over what it contributed in the third quarter of 2016, which was 8.8%. The contribution now to the sector in terms of GDP is 9.8%. And this is a sector that has contributed an average of over 1.4 trillion naira per quarter. Surely, this is a sector that has shown a remarkable resilience in the face of, economic, challenges in the economy. So we intend to continue to do those things, introducing flexibility in our regulations.
Some people will ask whether it is. I mean, have Nigerians been able to benefit from that? Yes, it is one thing for it to contribute to GDP, which is good for government, looks good on the books, and perhaps even the telecom companies are making profit. But then, what has the quality of service been like for Nigerians? Have they been able to benefit immensely from it?
They have, through the various intervention projects we do. In virtually, all corners of the country, in tertiary institutions, through interventions where we provide, centers, where ordinary Nigerians can go and access, the internet and so on and so forth.
Have the number of complaints that the NCC has received in recent times from Nigerians increased?
Well, there is a dedicated toll-free number through which we receive complaints. These complaints are being resolved as they arrive, and we have received acknowledgement, from diverse audience of telecommunication service consumers, that indeed we are on top of what we are doing, addressing complaints as they come, ensuring we protect the consumer, empowering the consumer in order to ensure, they lodge their complaints through that toll-free number, or by, submitting complaints directly, to the commission.
Have you noticed an increase?
Well, we have noticed an increase, especially with with particular, if you like, reference to quality of service. That we have noticed. And we're doing something to address these complaints. Very soon we will come up with a statement as to whether quality of service has improved from what it was in the last quarter of 2016 or not. And then we will say what actions, we're going to take to ensure it improves.
What is the deadline that the operators have?
I think it's this month, March 2017. We're doing the analysis. We're about to complete the analysis, and then we'll do a comparative analysis with what, the if you like, the technical factors are, in the tail end of 2016, and come up with a conclusion as to whether, yes, there is improvement or not.
What is the deliverables? What are we expecting? What should consumers look forward to in terms of deliverables from their telcos?
Well, the call success rate is normally 1% out of 100 calls. So only one call should be dropped. And the telcos are aware that this is a standard stipulated by the NCC, consistent with global best practice. And if that standard is not met, then clearly there is a problem. And the problem is that we will ensure the particular telco that is not meeting that standard, complies. And there are even, an action of last resort that we can take to compel adherence, to the stipulations of, the quality of service, standards. And the other one is the call success setup rate, which says only 2 out of 100 calls, cannot be completed. And we have the capacity to monitor what is going on also. And therefore, we can hold the operators responsible where this particular standard is also not being complied with. So we are on top of this. We know what we are doing. We have the capacity to monitor in any part of this country the quality of service as it relates to these two parameters. We call them the key performance indicators. And I would like to assure Nigerians through this media that very soon we are going to again call the operators in order to inform them whether there's improvement in quality of service or not, as well as the next course of action that the NCC will be taking.
Well, we'll definitely be looking forward to that statement. Professor Umar Udambata, we must thank you very much for coming on Sunrise Daily.
Thank you very much.
He is the Executive Vice Chair of the National Communications Commission.